I've been updating, perfecting, and optimizing all of the individual character builds in Expedition 33. Today, I want to bring them all together in a big compilation video, which is sponsored by the wonderful folks over at War Thunder. More on that shortly. Let's jump into the first build. I fine-tuned the Lune build for it to be even more powerful and pretty broken, pushing it to its limits whilst there's still being room for 1 or 2 further tweaks if desired. We're going to approach this from the perspective of a solo build. However, if you want to run it in a group, it is perfectly capable of doing so. You'll just need to make some adjustments with the last stand luminers and stuff like that. The weapon of choice for this build is the fantastic Scaverim, Lune's highest base power weapon, which can be found in the Falling Leaves optional area upon defeating the main boss. None of the bonus level 4, level 10 or level 20 abilities are going to come into play at all, so don't worry about them. We are in fact using it for its irrefutable OP-ness. If you want to use the Kralim or the Coralim instead, that's absolutely fine, use whatever works for you, but the Scaverim is absolutely solid. For her Pictos, we're going to be equipping very high Lumina cost abilities that we're going to need as part of the build anyhow, and as this is a solo build, we don't need to worry about crit rate, we will sort that out with the Luminas. I've gone for Cheetah, Energizing Turn, and Energy Master. Feel free to copy those like for like. Onto the Luminas now. Accelerating Last Stand and Empowering Last Stand are going to give us Rush and Powerful when we start the fight, which we can use with Energizing Powerful, Energizing Rush, Energizing Turn, and Energy Master to ensure that our AP generation from the get-go is completely taken care of. Last Stand Critical to give you 100% crit rate when solo is of course core, as is First Strike, Cheetah, which we have equipped, and of course Painted Power to breach the 9999 damage barrier. Everything else is damage boosting Luminas. Use as many as you have. You may want to use stuff like Auto Death and Survivor to get you to 1 HP immediately, combined with At Death's Door, Greater Powerful, Glass Cannon, Immaculate, Inverted Affinity. Anything and everything that you have is going to help. If you copy my exact setup here, you're going to hit like an absolute truck. I like taking Exposing Attack and Greater Defenseless because sometimes you'll be able to play 3 times, which you'll see will give us a chance to apply Defenseless and make it even more effective. And I'm fairly certain Shortcut doesn't work additively right at the start, it gets eaten by Cheetah. For her skills, they're going to revolve around 4 main options. Elemental Trick is going to be absolutely core to the build, dealing low single target Ice, Fire, Lightning, and Earth damage over 4 hits, with critical hits generating the corresponding stain. As we have 100% crit rate, we will get one of each of the stains. From here, we have the 3 different options that we can choose. Elemental Genesis is an excellent choice, which deals extreme damage to all enemies over 8 hits, each hit dealing damage in a random element, and it can only be cast when you have 1 of each of the stains. This is such an all-round amazing option, and it's so cheap to do, it only costs 4 AP. Provided you have the stains, this is going to be absolutely solid. The second absolutely devastating, also group clearing option is going to be Hell, dealing very high fire damage that applies 5 burn per hit to all enemies over 2 hits, consuming Ice, Earth, and Lightning stains to greatly increase the damage, and is a 9 AP skill, so that very high fire damage is a little bit disingenuous. It is absolutely extreme damage. This option's bonkers, it does so much damage, it's more expensive, it costs all 9 AP to do, and is exclusively fire damage as well, so things to think about. And for our final option, we're going to have a single target solution. Lightning Dance deals very high single target lightning damage over 6 hits, with critical hits triggering an additional hit, so it'll deal 12, consuming Earth, Ice, and Fire stains to greatly increase the damage. Again, I think it'd be pretty accurate to say this is extreme damage. It costs 7 AP, so not quite as expensive as Hell, not quite as cheap as Elemental Genesis, and exclusively hits for lightning damage, so another thing to think about. And those are all of the components of the build. All that's left is for us to go put it into practice. Upon starting a fight, we'll initiate First Strike to play first, activate a bunch of our powering up damage boosting skills, triggering our AP generation as well with Energizing Rush, Energizing Powerful, and Energizing Turn. First things first is we're going to play Elemental Trick, dealing Ice, Fire, Lightning, and Earth damage as critical hits, generating 1 of each of the corresponding stains. If you can see in the turn order that you have 3 turns to play, you can go ahead and use your second turn to execute a basic attack, applying Greater Defenseless to one of the enemies. With or without this step, you are absolutely primed to go down any of the 3 paths. Elemental Genesis is cheap, it costs 4 AP, AP and is going to deal extreme damage to all of the enemies over 8 hits, absolutely obliterating everything, and gives you a chance to use free aim shots to get rid of some shields if you need to do so. The other group clearing skill you can use instead is Hell, which is absolutely devastating too, and will similarly be primed with Elemental Trick, as you need an Ice, Earth, and Lightning Stain in order to boost it. This thing absolutely bangs, and goddamn, I feel sorry for any enemies that are weak to fire. And lastly, our single target solution, Lightning Dance, to deal very high lightning damage over 6 hits or 12 hits because they're all crits, greatly boosted with an Earth, Ice, and Fire Stain, which we will of course also have because of the Elemental Trick. This goes super hard. It outperforms Hell and Elemental Genesis over single target damage, provided the enemy isn't resistant to lightning, and they best bloody well hope they're not weak to it, because they will get absolutely zapped and clapped. That's 3 different paths you can go down in the same build, which are all incredibly powerful. There is a caveat that if any of the elements are absorbed, your Elemental Trick will not generate the critical hit to generate the stain, which means you outright won't be able to even use Elemental Genesis, and both Hell and Lightning Dance will be their less powerful versions depending on which element got absorbed. But in those cases where this build isn't effective, you can just do something else. War Thunder is the most fully fleshed, comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and is available for free right now on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. You'll be taking command of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships of 10 major nations, ranging from biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s, all the way up to fighter jets and main battle tanks of the modern day. Immerse yourself in the fast-paced, intense combat of War Thunder, where incredibly detailed vehicles, realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects place you right at the helm of the most powerful war machines of our time. My favorite thing about War Thunder is that there's a game mode for every type of player, with 3 distinct modes that ramp up realism progressively. Arcade suits those craving fast-paced matches with enhanced vehicle performance and simplified physics, while Simulator mode ditches all guardrails for the ultimate challenge. Realistic mode, on the other hand, is the perfect middle ground, striking a balance between intensity and authenticity. Whichever way you want to play, there are options for everyone. Join a worldwide community of over 70 million players in epic PvP battles today, and delve into the breathtaking experience that is War Thunder. With an unmatched wealth of high-quality content to discover, there's simply no alternative for a game for fans of military history. You can play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile devices right now by using the links in the pinned comment or video description. New and returning players on PC that haven't played the game in the last 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack across all platforms that includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account. This is all available only for a limited time, so do be quick. Since we can no longer use Card Weaver with the Chatian to auto-apply 10 Foretell to all enemies, we're going to slightly revamp the build from the ground up and treat it as a whole entire new thing. And without further ado, let's jump right into maximizing your OP-ness. Starting us off with the weapon of choice for this build, we're going to be using the excellent Charnon, purchased from the Gestural Merchant Grauer, located at Renoir's Drafts, after you challenge him to a fight and unlock all of the items available in his shop. Whilst the base power does come in at the low end compared to the rest of Sciel's weapons, we're granted a lot of versatility by using the Charnon, and we can immediately see in one way how that's mitigated anyhow. The level 4 ability of having 100% critical chance during Twilight isn't something that's going to come into play, so we can mostly ignore that. Applying 1 Foretell on every single critical hit is something that's quite useful, and the level 20 ability I was just alluding to gives us 20% increased damage for each consecutive turn without taking damage, which can stack up to 5 times. The element of the weapon being Void is also very useful for any skills which use the weapon's element, as no enemies are resistant to Void damage and it bypasses their defenses. If you instead want to use the Chatian for the level 4 ability, whereby all Sun skills always apply 10 Foretell at the cost of you taking double damage, this is still going to be absolutely viable and excellent. It's just not as flexible as the Charnon, but feel free to use this. All 6 of the skills here have a dedicated function in your kit, giving you the versatility and flexibility to respond to a variety of situations. For our core bread and butter screen wiping solution, we're going to be starting off with Bad Omen, replacing Card Weaver, which no longer applies 10 Foretell to all enemies when using the Chatian, but it costs the same amount of AP and it deals low dark damage to all enemies over 2 hits, applying 2 Foretell per hit, and we get an additional Foretell per critical strike. All in all, applying applying 6 foretell to all enemies, assuming 100% crit chance, which is what we're going to go for. Now, if we have the speed for 3 turns in a row, which will depend on your Pictos and will change from fight to fight, we have the opportunity to play Fortune's Fury, which will let us deal double damage for 1 turn upon playing it on ourselves. Regardless of whether we play that extra step with Fortune's Fury, we will then chase up Bad Omen with Dark Wave, costing 6 AP to deal high dark damage to all enemies over 3 hits, consuming all foretell for increased damage. Not forgetting that over those hits we'll also get critical strikes, adding more foretell as the ability plays out. For our single target solution, we'll instead be using focused foretell, dealing medium single target physical damage over 1 hit. It seems to apply weirdly with the Charnon's ability, so it will only actually apply 3 foretell, chased up with the devastating Twilight Dance, dealing extreme single target dark damage over 4 hits, which if done during Twilight extends the duration of it by 1 turn, consuming all foretell to deal additional damage and costs a full 9 AP. Sealed Fate is there as a contingency plan, just in case you're dealing with something that absorbs dark damage. If they're just resistant to it, you'll follow the same plan anyhow. And to be honest, Sciel is the darkness character, so for whatever reason, if she's not a great match, you can just take someone else. For our Pictos, we're going to do our best to bump up the speed as high as possible. We would like to have the 3-turn setup so we can get Fortune's Fury in between, whilst also actually equipping Pictos that are useful for the build, helping out with our Lumina economy. I've gone for Cheetah, Energizing Turn, and Augmented First Strike. Feel free to copy these like for like, it'll work out really nicely. You can also see which attributes you're going to be going for, but that's super obvious. It's always Might and then the 2 scaling attributes. In this case, Might, Luck, and Defense. And now for perhaps the most important part of the build that brings it all together, which Luminas we're going to equip. Whilst the build does assume solo play, you can adjust accordingly for a party dynamic. It's pretty straightforward. Instead of your Last Stand skills, you'll just take the normal version of them. But here we're taking Accelerating Last Stand, Empowering Last Stand to start off with Auto Rush and Auto Powerful, combined with Energizing Powerful, Energizing Rush, Energizing Turn, and Energy Master for all of our AP needs. Greater Powerful to get more out of Auto Powerful. You can also take Greater Rush. Last Stand Critical to make sure we've got 100% crit rate whilst we're playing solo. Of course, Cheetah to play twice. Painted Power obviously to exceed 9999 damage cap. And then everything else here is for the damage boosting multipliers, increasing cumulatively, so the more that you have, the better it works. Do not worry if you don't have every single one of them. It is far more important that you understand the principles behind the build so that you can then apply it to yourself and build further upon it if need be. So you may be using stuff like Auto Death and Survivor with At Death's Door, Confident Fighter, Glass Cannon, Immaculate, Inverted Affinity, In Medias Res with Powerful Shield, Shield Affinity solidifying. Anything and everything, the more that you have, the better. And now all that's left is to put it all into practice. Upon starting a battle, we will gain a plethora of damage increasing bonuses and other buffs, and also all 9 AP to play around with. We'll initiate with Bad Omen, dealing low dark damage over 2 hits to all enemies and applying 6 foretell. With our setup, this is enough to finish off some still pretty powerful enemies. Next up, if we have the space for it, if we've moved fast enough, we can then play Fortune's Fury on ourselves, buffing us to deal double damage on our next turn. We are now seriously juiced and we've got 7 AP, we only needed 6 for us to play Dark Wave, dealing high dark damage to all enemies. Our screen wipe solution clearing even the strongest of foes. It is absolutely devastating. As mentioned earlier when we were going over the skills, we also do have a fantastic single target solution, starting off the fight with focused foretell, quickly applying 3 foretell to the enemy, which we will then chase up with the very powerful Twilight Dance, using up all 9 AP, so there isn't any room for Fortune's Fury, unfortunately, to deal extreme single target dark damage over 4 hits. Crazy devastating and super helpful to have that versatility built into one single kit. Whilst you don't have the AP to use Fortune's Fury after focused foretell, you can pop Firing Shadow in between, which deals low dark damage to all enemies over 3 hits, consumes 1 foretell per hit, but you will replace that with the critical strikes that you land, and it's a moon skill, so you'll be able to enter the Twilight state, giving you that extra damage buff before you pop Twilight Dance. I took this up against Golgra and absolutely demolished her. And I don't know if you tried her, but she's insane. This will be really powerful for the vast majority of situations, but it does of course come with the caveat that it's dealing dark damage. Some enemies are resistant to it, and even worse, will nullify or absorb it. In those situations, I don't really suggest Sciel, but you can also tweak things, using Sealed Fate to deal your weapon's elemental damage, in our case dealing Void, is one way around this. There's also only a little bit of wiggle room with AP if you need to get rid of shields, but maybe not as much as you would like, and the damage doesn't keep up as well as other characters' powerful builds will, such as Lune's Elemental Genesis or Monoco's Creation Void. But sometimes you just want a build for a specific character because you really dig them and you want to make it work. So go forth with this fantastic Sciel build. It will really see you through. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, woo-wee, mon ami. And if not, then there's always Maelle. For this setup, we're taking Monoco, giving him the capabilities to wipe the entire screen, completely disintegrating all of the enemies in one turn without the input of any of your other teammates, so it fits nicely into a party setup, or you can go solo to crank up the damage even further. The entire build revolves around a specific weapon and one skill with a choice of others that you can use, so let's break it all down. The weapon of choice is the Joyaro, obtained in the Endless Night Sanctuary optional dungeon. It has the third highest base damage out of all of Monoco's weapons, is Thunder Elemental, and has primary attribute scaling in agility with secondary attribute scaling in defense. It is the level 4 bonus that we're super interested in here, allowing you to begin the battle in Monoco's most powerful mask, the Almighty Mask, from the very get-go. The level 10 bonus gives 20% increased damage for each consecutive turn without taking damage, and it can stack up to 5 times, but we shouldn't really be needing this because we're going to end it in one turn anyhow. And the level 20 bonus doubles break damage whilst in Almighty Mask. Just all-round OPness. Your attributes are pretty straightforward. You're going to max out the primary scaling attribute first, agility, then you're going to max out might, and finally the secondary attribute scaling defense with any of your remaining points. This is true for the weapon up to level 32. Once you've maxed it out to level 33, the secondary attribute takes priority over might. Do not worry about my character being level 99. You absolutely do not need to be max level for this build to work. In terms of your pictos, you're looking to boost your critical rate up to 100%, making up the difference that you'll gain from pumping up your defense attribute. If you can't quite hit 100, get as close as you can. Over here, I've boosted speed and critical rate. If we're aiming to end fights in one turn, speed's going to be most useful. We're not really bothered about the skills, but if any of them line up for ones that you're actually interested in, that's just a bonus. The main skill this revolves around is the Sacapitate Fire, dealing extreme fire damage to all enemies over 3 hits, applying 3 burn per hit, and having its damage increased in Almighty Mask as all skills are. You'll need the ultimate Sacapitate Nevron foot. You can get one at the Endless Night Sanctuary or at the Monolith as well. Just make sure Monoco's in your party during the fight. The other skill we'll be using for a single target solution, but honestly is absolutely insane and you can use on a group as well, potentially even to greater effect than Sacapitate Fire, is Creation Void, dealing extreme void damage to random targets over 3 hits, increasing in damage if the same target is hit multiple times, boosted by the Caster Mask but also of course by the Almighty Mask. Both skills take up 9 AP, both are absolutely devastating. You can kind of use whichever you want, keeping in mind that Sacapitate Fire does deal fire damage, which some monsters are resistant to, whereas Creation Void deals void damage, which nothing is resistant to. There's a creation you can go back and fight in Lumiere Gardens if you need the Nevron foot, or you can head over to Renoir's Drafts. In terms of the Luminous, we don't actually need Cheetah here at all, but it's always useful to have just in case. Go take down Sprong, that giant Nevron sticking out of the water. He's pretty tough, he's got a lot of HP. You can beat him after around Act 2. If you're good enough to get the weapon you need for this build, you're good enough to go beat Sprong. Painted Power, of course, is also always a given. It allows you to exceed the damage cap of 9999 damage received during main story progression after Act 2. Equip it and never get rid of it. Whether you're using Sacapitate Fire or Creation Void, you're going to need 9 AP from the get-go. Having solid AP generation, especially on startup, is great practice anyhow, but in this case, it's actually required. You can achieve this with Energizing Turn, Energizing Rush, and Energizing Powerful, alongside Auto Powerful, Auto Rush, or Empowering Last Stand, Accelerating Last Stand, either or. Of course, the Last Stand ability is only working if you're running this solo. You can also drop some skills and use Energy Master, or you can use some of the Energizing Start skills. The route you take to get there doesn't matter so long as you start with 9 AP. And for everything else, we are focused on pumping up our damage as high as we can. You're looking at skills like Confident Fighter, Burst Offensive, Glass Cannon, Greater Powerful, Immaculate, Inverted Affinity, Shield Affinity, and Powerful Shield alongside In Medias Res. Solo Fighter is a massive damage boost if you are running this with just Monoco, anything and everything that you've got. Don't worry if you don't have all of these Luminas, use as many as you have. It is far more important that you understand the core principles behind the build rather than having every single one of the same Luminas per se. And all that's left is for us to take this and put it into practice. It is so simple. You're gonna walk into a fight, you'll get Auto Powerful, Auto Rush, and be boosted all the way up to 9 AP. AP. The level 4 weapon ability of the Giaro will put you straight into Almighty Mask, and you have your pick of your skills all boosted up to the maximum. For this setup, we're going straight into Sack a Potato Fire to unleash extreme fire damage on all enemies, instantly burning them to ashes, unleashing absolute devastation. This will screen clear even the toughest of endgame opponents in one turn without the input of any of your other teammates. Super straightforward, super simple. Alternatively, you can of course use Creation Void, which will dish out extreme void damage over 3 hits to all opponents, increasing in damage if it hits the same opponent consecutively. This is absolutely disgustingly powerful both for a single target solution and to screen clear as well. The advantage it has over Sack a Potato Fire is it deals void damage, which no enemies are resistant to. It does however lack the same volume of attacks, so trickier when dealing with shielded enemies. There really are no caveats to this build because you can have a set of skills for every eventuality. Whilst I only spotlighted 2 skills, the other ones that you bring along too are all at your disposal at full strength with the Almighty Mask. You can have an answer to everything. And there you have it, there's my 1-turn OP Monoco build, lying somewhere between practical and also very clearly ridiculously strong. Whilst I've recently done a max burn Verso build with Verso, as well as an infinite void Noceram build, which is quite unique, I really wanted to revisit and revamp the OG Phantom Stars build so that we can fine-tune it and perfect it, breathing some new life into it. We've got no time to waste, Verso's got places to be, so let's jump right into increasing your OPness. The build revolves heavily around the weapon, priming you for optimal skill usage with great synergy, letting you start the battle, jumping right in and keeping it super simple. The weapon of choice is the wonderful and often overlooked Blowdam, which you can acquire by defeating the Chromatic Reaper cultist, found on the island that's kind of wrapped around by a hook of mountains and blocked by coral reefs northeast of the coastal cave. Once you have it obtained, you'll see that it's a pretty neat weapon, boasting pretty solid base power compared to his other swords, light elemental which doesn't really play much of a part, and a very important set of bonus skills which have very high synergy with the build. The level 4 ability changes Verso's perfection ranks to now instead be based on his current health totals, gaining 1 rank for every 20% of missing HP. You can see where this is going. By putting him at 1 health at the start of the fight, we're going to go straight to S rank, with Blowdam's level 10 ability bringing in even more synergy, giving us 20% increased light damage with skills, which for Phantom Stars is going to be very useful indeed. And lastly, the level 20 ability to give us +1 AP on ranking up is neither here nor there. As ever, the attributes are very self-explanatory, with the weapon's primary stat scaling being agility and secondary stat scaling being defense. We'll allocate our attribute points into might, agility and defense respectively. The skill setup is super straightforward, with the whole build revolving around one skill, the fantastic Phantom Stars, dealing extreme light damage to all enemies over 5 hits. It has the capacity to break, costing all 9 AP but reduced down to 5 AP when at S rank, which we will be. The rest of your skills are completely at your discretion. You can take Berserk Slash as a backup just in case one or more of the enemies absorb or nullify light damage, and given that it deals physical damage, not your weapons element, it's a pretty good option. Not only that, but it is actually tremendously powerful. You can make a whole build around this, given the synergy of being at 1 HP. Onto the Pictos we're going to be using. As I'm approaching this from the perspective of a solo build, I'm not going to go for 100% crit rate or high speed particularly. Instead, I'm going to double dip and equip Pictos, giving me some of the very high cost Luminas that I want to use. Here I've gone for Survivor, worth 20 Lumina points, Energy Master costing 40, and Cheetah costing 40 as well, giving us 100 free Lumina points to play around with the rest of our build, which we can go and do now. Let's break down the setup of all of the Luminas here. With Accelerating Last Stand and Empowering Last Stand, we're going to give ourselves Auto Rush and Auto Powerful, combined with Energizing Rush and Energizing Powerful, plus Energizing Turn Energy Master. This takes care of our AP generation from the get-go. It's also very important that we use Auto Death alongside Survivor, which is one of the Pictos we had equipped, to leave us on 1 HP, activating Blowdam's ability, bringing us up to S rank. Easy peasy, no fuss. First Strike will ensure that we'll play first even if our speed isn't high enough. Cheetah, another one of the equipped Pictos, is going to let us play twice in a row. Very useful for if you need to do 2 lots of Phantom Stars to get the job done. And the rest are all damage increasing Luminas, as many as you have, including even the option, if you wish to do so, to fire out some free aim shots, try and get a burn stack, maybe a mark. You've got the option available available, you don't have to. You may instead be more interested in At Death's Door, Confident Fighter, Glass Cannon, Greater Powerful, Immaculate, In Medias Res with Powerful Shield, Shield Affinity Solidifying, Inverted Affinity, Solo Fighter, Tainted. Given the cumulative nature of the damage multipliers, each and every single one you have is super beneficial. However, if you are missing one or two, do not worry, it's not the end of the world. Likewise with not being level 99 or not having a level 33 weapon, it is far more important that you understand the principles behind the build than having every single element displayed here per se. And all that's left is for us to put it all together and take it for a spin. Upon starting a battle, Verso will be bukaki'd by a plethora of damage increasing luminas, including setting his HP to 1, which will automatically put him up to rank S due to the Blowdamn's weapon ability. We will be playing first and we have all of the AP that we need. Head over to skills and unleash Phantom Stars, dealing extreme light damage to all enemies over 5 hits. This is gonna wipe the screen of even the most powerful of enemies in the game. If you need to take another turn, you can do so and use another Phantom Stars, ensuring that you bring down absolute annihilation. There are very few opponents that can withstand this. Despite being so simple, it is super effective. If you need a little bit of extra juice, you can use some of your free aim shots to stack some burn, deal some additional damage, maybe get a mark out as well for the first hit of Phantom Stars to do a bit more. It's a very solid build. It'll even trivialize Painted Love if you use it properly. The main and probably only caveat of the build is that you are dealing light damage. In those cases, it is helpful to have a contingency skill like Berserk Slash, but given the whole build revolves around light damage by the light damage character, if you're in an area where you keep facing opponents absorbing or nullifying light, just use someone else. I have fine-tuned and perfected the Maelle build to make it even more busted and broken. It is so destructive, pushing it to its limits whilst there still being room for 1 or 2 further tweaks if desired. The build revolves around a specific weapon to maximize your damage potential, 3 different skills giving you group clearing and single target options, dealing void damage, making them suitable for every single opponent. The weapon of choice is the infamous, very powerful Yevarum, which can be purchased from the gestural merchant Grauer in Renoir's drafts after you beat him in a fight to unlock all of the secret items available in his shop. It boasts very solid base power with a very unique set of bonus abilities surrounding shielding, which we can use with specific luminas to our advantage to boost the power even further. The level 4 ability sees you also applying 1 shield when you apply Shell. The level 10 ability gives you 1 AP upon applying shields, and the level 20 ability, upon switching out into Virtuo stance, doubles all shields on all allies. You're probably already putting together in your head the sort of stuff that this can do. The attributes are as self-explanatory as ever, with Yevarum primarily scaling off defense and secondarily off agility. We'll be allocating our attribute points in defense, agility, and might respectively. There are only 3 skills that we require for the full setup, both for the group screen clearing and the single target solution. They both start with the same skill, Last Chance, reducing self-health to 1 but refills all of her AP, and switches Maelle over to Virtuo stance. Our screen wipe follow-up will be Phantom Strike, which deals very high void damage to all enemies over 4 hits, also giving plus 35% of a gradient charge. We're not really fussed on that, costing 7 AP to use. Remember that void damage bypasses all defenses, and there are no enemies that are resistant to it. The other erase from canvas option is of course Stendhal, dealing extreme single target void damage over 1 hit, removing all self shields and self-applies defenseless, which doesn't matter because we'll be nuking the enemy out of existence, costing 8 AP to use. For your Pictos, you can double dip and equip some of the luminas that you're going to use in the build, or you can just focus on boosting up your speed. Whichever you decide, they're not super relevant. I've gone for Sniper, Energizing Turn, and Augmented First Strike. Feel free to copy these like for like if you wish. And finally, for the luminas that brings the whole build together, Accelerating Last Stand and Empowering Last Stand will give you auto powerful and auto rush from the get-go. You don't need any of the AP generation luminas particularly. You only need 1 AP to use Last Chance, and that's going to give you 9 AP after you use it. Instead of AP generation, you really want to focus on shield generation. We know that we apply shields when we apply Shell, so stuff like Auto Shell, SOS Shell, Shell on Rush, they're all going to be super useful, alongside In Medias Res, Powerful Shields, Shield Affinity, and Solidifying. This is going to be overkill. We double our shields when we go into Virtuo stance, and you max out at 9. You can figure out a way to min-max it and exactly how many you need. I just chucked these all on and it worked great for me. Of course, make sure you've got Cheetah and or Shortcut, allowing you to play twice twice in a row, this is absolutely essential, alongside First Strike to ensure that you're going first. On top of Powerful Shield giving us 10% increased damage per shield point, which is 90%, we're going to be equipping all of our other damage increasing Luminous, as many as you have. So stuff like At Death's Door, Glass Cannon, Greater Powerful, Immaculate, Inverted Affinity, Confident Fighter, Augmented First Strike, First Offensive, anything and everything that you've got. As ever, if you are missing one or two of these, do not worry, it's not the end of the world. It's far more important that you understand the principles behind the build than necessarily using every single Lumina here per se. And those are all of the components for the build. All that's left is to put it into practice. Upon starting a fight, you're going to get absolutely smashed with all of your damage increasing Luminas, and probably way too many shields that you don't need, ready to take on the world in a giant fuck you to Papa. We're going to start by playing Last Chance, reducing Maelle's HP to 1, but refilling all of her AP up to 9, and switching her into Virtuo stance. This will double her total shields, giving us the maximum damage increase from them, and prime her into Virtuo stance with a 200% damage modifier. We then select Phantom Strike and absolutely obliterate all of the foes in front of us. This is strong enough to take out nearly all of the opponents in the game. Very simple and insanely powerful. You're gonna absolutely love it. And our single target solution for the super bosses, for the real meanies, is a very similar setup. We will start off with Last Chance, and this time, once primed, we're gonna unleash her with Stendhal, which simply erases your opponent from existence out of the canvas. It obliterates them. If you need a little extra juice for Simon, just pop on roulette and you'll be absolutely grand, provided you get the right roll for it, and you can just keep trying until you get it. There are a few extra steps you can take if you have your teammates come in and die and do certain effects. That's fine. As you can see, it's not even needed. And that's a wrap on all of the updated, perfected, optimized builds. Once again, a huge shout out to War Thunder for sponsoring today's video. Do be sure to check it out. It's free to play right now on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile devices. And remember to use my links in the pinned comment or video description to register. Any new players and those returning after 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack across PC and console, including multiple premium vehicles, in-game currency, and more.